hello. My name is Epple, and I will be providing the second lecture for week 1 of Intro to Computer Science. Just a reminder, this is an 8-week course, and today's the second lecture of the week, but you only need to attend one of the lectures, so if you missed the first one, don't worry too much about it. We cover the same thing on both lectures. All right. So there will be 2 instructors. This is Lucia. I don't think she's here to introduce herself, but if she shows up later, we'll bother her about it. I'll give a quick introduction about myself. So I started programming at around the age of 12, so about half my life now. And I had my bachelor's degree in computer science as well. I've had some amounts of work experience. I've been in the industry for about 5-ish years now, since 2019, right before COVID started. So that was a very interesting transition. Currently, I'm in a very non-disclosed big tech company, and most of my focus is in both software development as well as cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a pretty big passion of mine, and I personally really enjoy doing competitions as well. If I can describe how I started computer science, the easiest way would be because I wanted to make something. And at the very beginning, it was games. I started off wanting to make games, and after learning more and more about computer science, at the end of the day, I realized my passion was for computer science. Lucia, I see you there. I think we skipped over your slide. You want to come up and introduce yourself? Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, to be fair, this is your lesson today. But yeah, so I'm Lucia. I am a lead software engineer / architect. Yeah, fair. So I'm self-taught originally at the age of 14. I started working in the industry at 18. I've been in the industry in one way or another for about 10 years. I have a bachelor's in computer science. My thesis is in cybersecurity, and one of my patents is in artificial intelligence. Yeah, I'm trans femme. I go by she, her. And yeah, I got into computer science because I liked what you could do. I liked being able to change the world around me. The physical realm I was in just simply didn't fit, which I think is something many trans people can relate to. Yeah. Yeah, back to you, Up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you come on the Monday lectures, Lucia will be hosting them, and you will see both of us on Friday for the combined workshop, where we will be giving you some more hands-on projects. All right, thank you so much, Lucia. Okay, let's get started. So, I wanted to ask everyone, what do these 3 things have in common? The Apollo landing on the moon, hanging out with your friends in VR chat, and a Google search query for is my Baja cheating on me with other plushies? Any takers? Any takers? Don't be shy, don't be shy. If I don't see you raise your hand, please jump up and down. Same thing throughout this entire lecture. If you have any question, feel free to just type them out or jump up and down. I don't have everyone's avatars shown, but feel free to interrupt me anytime. Yes.
Do these all involve computers or computer science?
Yes. To all some extents, obviously with other major STEM topics that is involved, computer science plays a pretty important part in all of these being able to happen. So, this is a fairly big topic. What is computer science? Computer science in itself is a very large area of study, and there are a lot of different smaller parts that can fit into it. In its essence, computer science is defined as the study of computers and computational systems. Essentially, we are teaching a rock to think with, some caveats, of course. And computer science is the process of understanding how we can control and program these computer systems so that they can do what we want, not only in the virtual worlds, but also in the physical worlds around us. And especially nowadays, as our physical worlds are more and more integrated with computers in general, computer science is starting to become more and more relevant. We're all online. The only reason this class is possible is because of computer science and a bunch of other factors. And you walk around in real life, you're discovering your money is now more related, tied online. The way you communicate with other people, the way you live, the way you travel, etc. Almost everything is affected at some points. So I wanted to go over a little bit about this course. As everyone knows, this is an 8-week course, and to be completely honest with you, it's just not possible to teach a deep enough understanding of computer science within 8 weeks. For the goal of Lucia and I, we want to provide you a roadmap. I'll just say 1 second. We want to provide you a roadmap to what computer science is, give you a quick introduction on what it's like working in the industry and what programming can be like, some important concepts within programming, but we will not be able to cover enough depth but we will provide enough resources not only during this class but also outside of this class on Discord and other channels so that for people who are interested in learning more in the future, they can go and reach out. And at the end of the day, this class is something that I think both Lucia and I really wanted to exist when we were starting out in computer science. As we were self-taught, it was fairly muddy waters, at least for me when I was starting off. Okay, so real quick, I wanted to go over a little about the computer science industry. At the end of the day, if you are ever interested in using computer science, not only as potentially a hobby, but maybe even as you're living, it's very important to know like what's possible out there, like what can computer science do for you. And in its essence, computer science industry is extremely diverse and it's expanding every single day. Obviously, there are a lot of different ways to approach how you tackle the industry, but some of the most common ones that we have listed on here is employment, either for someone else or for yourself. You can also do startups, which I have experience in. Entrepreneurship is a fairly niche but very, very exciting and interesting part of computer science as well because of the ease of access. It's so easy for you to make something and have that something you made potentially reach millions, if not even billions of people worldwide. And obviously, there are a lot of Patreons and donations that you may have seen around. Even avatar creation and world creation, in some sense, falls under this area as well. So within computer science, there are a lot of niche specializations. Some are not as niche as others, but you'll slowly discover that every single one of these specializations have even more specializations underneath them, and even more underneath them. It's all a rabbit hole, but with the amount of difference in specializations in the computer science industry, I am certain that, if you're interested in computer science, there will be something out there that you'll be very, very interested in. And to just give you some ideas of what computer science specializations look like, we have web design, any website that you ever go on any browser, all falls underneath there. You have data science, which is increasingly more prevalent as data becomes the most valuable resource in the world that you cannot touch or feel. You have cybersecurity, as people's lives are more and more integrated into computer science. It's now more than ever important to protect it. Game development. We're sitting in a game. You want to make your own game? Now you can. We have mobile design. Anything on your phone. Technically, it's pretty much mostly phone devices, but most of us probably have phones, and we may not have computers. AI is something that you're going to hear a lot in the next couple of years. If not, you're probably already hearing it everywhere, regardless. 3D VR technologies, that's what powers us being here today. We also have operating systems. We have like infrastructure operating systems, these things that don't look as glamorous within computer science. You will find it to be very important in everyday life. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a second here. Do we have any questions about the industry in general? Any questions about like experiences? If you have anything, feel free to just jump up and down or raise your hand and let me know. And do remember, yes, question. 2 questions here. Eve.
Yeah. Uh, how do you like gauge your own skill level, and how can you like see what skill level you need to do a certain job? Because I know I can program. I'm pretty alright at it, but I don't trust myself to do anything or have any kind of responsibility really. Because I've
Yeah,
like
and
instantly get imposter
that's
syndrome.
yeah. There's also an imposter syndrome. Okay, so just to repeat back the question, how can you judge your own skill level, and how do you know that you're good enough at something to perform a job, for example? There are a couple of ways of doing it. In my opinion, the way you do it is really just to go do it. The real way you combat imposter syndrome and how you perceive your own skill level is by simply doing and accomplishing the task, even if you don't know if you can. It can start off with something smaller and move slowly upwards, but for a job, if they're asking for certain qualifications that you're not very certain you have, At the end of the day, if you trust your own skills to learn and teach yourself, you can make that clear to your employer and potentially still apply. Hope that answers your question. If you have anything to add, Lucia, feel free.
Yeah, I was gonna say the imposter syndrome bit never really does it go away, even with,
That's
like
true.
even
That's true.
personally here. Yeah, even personally here, like what is it? I've been in the industry like 10 years. There are some things I literally have patents in, and I'm like, do I still know how to do this? It's like, no, you do. Yeah. Um, Really, the best way to figure it out is just by doing. I mean, you will, in many cases, be surprised what
Yeah.
you can end up coming up with and what you can end up figuring out. Anytime.
Yeah. We have one more question from the back, Pearly White. Go for it.
All right. Hope you can hear me from here. But if you want
Come over
to
closer a
research
bit.
and right, hold on.
Have a
All
little
right, can you
trouble
hear me
hearing
now?
you. Yes.
All right. If you want to research and study AI, where would you get started?
Ooh, good question. So the question is, if you want to research and study AI, where would you get started? I guess let me ask you a follow-up question. This may be a bit too detailed to cover fully, through the span of this class, but how deep do you want to go in AI? Do you want to
Well, I
make models? Do you want to just use them?
more like
Or
the
you're not sure?
equivalent of being I guess you could say, a back-end software engineer. Like, I just want to understand the code behind it.
Yeah. So I would personally, at least for AI, if you just want an understanding of how, let's say, neural models work, there are plenty of great resources online through academic papers. But if you don't want to read those, you can look up YouTube videos on them as well. One of the YouTubers that I heavily recommend for understanding the deep mathematics of neural networks is 3 Blue 1 Brown, and I can send you a link to that later. You remind me.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll add
Highly,
you, and we can do that. Yeah.
highly recommend. Highly recommend the papers. Well, they can be very dry. They oftentimes link to source code and examples, and it's gives you an idea on what's going on under the hood.
Can you name one paper though?
There was a paper on the neat algorithm, which I think is one of my favorites. If I can find it, I'll
Oh,
send it to you.
that was
Alright,
what I
sure.
was about to suggest as well. Evolving
Yep. Yeah.
topologies. Neat is very cool.
Yep.
Alright, I'll at you both, and I'll wait for that.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Great.
Yes, question from the Discord. Oh. Yes. Ooh, interesting. Okay, question is, without proper education, so like, I guess university degree, how to properly get into the industry, and I guess the specific emphasis on the person who asked there was cybersecurity. Great question. This is, I think, one of the biggest roadblocks for a lot of people who are either didn't go to school for computer science or are unable to go to school for computer science. The great thing about computer science is that there are just so many resources out there completely for free for you to start learning, including this one that you're watching now. And the truth of the matter is, almost everything can be learned online nowadays. You search through Google, search through YouTube. I think the difficulty here might be the roadmap. There's just too much, right? You're not sure where to start. You're not sure how to start. For this class, we will attempt to give our opinions on how you should start and which ones are important to start off with. And if you're interested in cybersecurity specifically, please ping me in the Discord, and I will make sure to add a specific section on resources regarding cybersecurity and things that I believe are really good for self-learning. And not only this, but also other computer science resources, just generalized computer science resources. We will compile as much information as we can and plop them into Discord. It will be under resources. You'll see it soon. If you don't see something or you feel like you want to see something, please let us know. Hope that answers your question.
Mind if I extend that real quick? Mind if I add
Yes,
to that
yes,
real quick?
absolutely.
Yeah, I guess the short version is if you're trying to get into computer science without a degree, if you understand the concepts very well and you understand like how to program and how to build applications, and you have like a portfolio and work that shows you've done it before, it is possible, just very, very difficult.
I would say it's more difficult, but it's definitely doable, yes.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Especially, I think portfolios are very important if you don't have an educational background. You basically just want to show people that you're applying to, hey, I can do this work. Here's the stuff I've done in the past. Cool. Any other questions? Yes, I see someone jumping over here. Evotic, please.
So I've never really learnt a coding language per se. I took a digital applications course when I was doing my GCSEs, which is like from the high school in the UK. And I'm wondering exactly which coding languages are best to get into for what areas. Is there any specific ones that it's more easier to get into, or ones that are better to get into for the industry in the way that it's growing?
Ooh, okay. Question was, which programming languages are potentially easy to get into for certain industries, and which programming languages, I guess, do we recommend? So this question, unfortunately, is probably like an hour-long question if we really covered it in depth. I will try to boil it down for you. The essence of what programming language to use is, does it fit the job? And for certain jobs that you'll be looking to apply for, they might look for a specific language that you should know, because most of their programs might already be written in that language. In terms of language agnostic, for this class, we are specifically teaching Python because Python is a very simple and high level language that focuses on the core fundamentals of computer science rather than digging into the weeds. If you want to dig into the weeds, you'll be looking for something that's much lower level, such as C++ or C. And the truth of the matter is, look towards the things you want to do and see what other people are using. That is my best advice. But at the end of the day, as long as you have a strong fundamental in overall computer science related topics, then you will be able to pick up almost any language fairly quickly. Hope that answers your question. Do you have anything to add, Lucio?
Yeah, I guess to add to it, focus on learning the concepts and the theory around what you're trying to do, and then apply the language afterwards. The language can change and will change. I think you and I at this point are fairly language agnostic, so and I probably programmed professionally between 12 to 20 different languages over the years. It's, you use the tool for the job that's appropriate.
Yeah. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Cool. All right. We're gonna move on to some code. Now, let's actually look at some code. This is a programming class after all. There will be more time for questions at the end, but if you have something about the slides, please feel free to interrupt me. Okay, so real quick, I'll explain what a programming environment is. For any programming language, you need a programming environment to run that programming language in. And for a lot of programming languages nowadays, we will be able to program them right off the web. So there's nothing for you to set up. We'll be using a service called Replit, and all of this information, how to set it up and everything, super simple. We'll send it into the Discord later. The language that we will be using for this class is Python, and we won't be focusing too much on the weird quirks of Python rather than overall general computer science concepts. And we personally think that this is a pretty good approach for everyone because very simple environment and very easy to access, and it looks the same on everyone's computers. So the same code should run the same way, which sounds obvious, but doesn't always happen. All right, let's look at our first computer science program for many of us. This is Hello World. You will hear the name of this program in many different programming languages that you will slowly learn throughout the years. For Hello World, this is the basic program that almost everyone starts off with because it is the program that really shows you how your program that you've written can do something to the with the machine that you're programming it in. I'll show you some code, and there will be some topics that are covered here, but we'll go more in depth with them in later lectures. Now, remember, all code reads up to down, left to right, just like a book, and computers will read the same way as well. All right, we'll have a quick program here to demonstrate. This is Replit. This is what Replit looks like. You have a main code editor in the middle that you can type your code in. And then on the very top, we're going to hit that run button. And that run button is what is going to take your program and run it through the Python interpreter and do something. So you can see the output here on the right-hand side. Ooh, I do have a pointer that I should be using. Yes, right here. Here's the coding environment. We have the run button up here, and then this is the output of our. So let's take a look at this code and break it down a little bit more. What just happened there? What did we write, or what are we going to write? Well, very simply, you can see that Python reads fairly like a human spoken language. For here, we want to print a certain text. And what you'll see here is you'll see that we're calling print on hello, Apple here. And on the right here, this is a code comment. This symbol, the hashtag pound symbol, marks a comment that is meant for humans. So for us to read and for other people who read our code to read. The comments are not seen by the computer, so it's really just here to help us to understand the code. If you see here, you'll see a pattern forming. We're calling print 3 times on 3 different groups of text. And you'll see that each call will print exactly what you told it to. And next, we'll be showing you how to perform some simple math within Python. We have addition, subtraction, but we'll be giving you a sneak peek into multiplication and division as well. Let's move to the video. Ooh, I just realized this might be a little small to see. Can everyone see this back there? Can you see this? Not really? Okay, no worries. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, can everyone see this? This is the code that this is the final code that we would see within the entire program that we wrote. So here, there are a couple of things that are happening that is very interesting. Number one, you're seeing us say value equals 3 plus 4. What just happened there? Well, quite simply, we made what is called a variable. We'll cover variables more in depth in later lectures, but know that variables hold value. And the value it holds is 3 plus 4, which gives us 7. And then we'll print that out. And so you can see that we're performing addition here as well as printing it so that us as the human can see in the end. Python also works for subtraction, multiplication, division, etc., etc. The way that you write out these mathematical operations may differ slightly program to program, but you will find them to be fairly similar throughout. Any questions? Any questions before I move on here? Yes, question from Discord. Good question. So, the simple answer is most of the time. The complicated answer is not always. So the reason why I'm saying this, and we will show you more of how we can control how our code flows later on in later lessons, but eventually by using things such as conditionals, loops, function calls, all of which we will cover throughout this class, we will be able to call our program functions and perform different tasks out of order potentially. And we are able to jump around within the code and jump around within the instructions. However, if those conditionals and those changes in how your program runs does not exist, then by default, programs will usually read up to down. At least in the case of Python and most major programming languages. Hope that answers the question. Anything to add, Lucia?
We may want to explain what a comment is on this.
Oh yes. Oh, I think I covered comments on the last couple of slides.
My apologies. I attached the neat research paper in the class chat for the curious.
It's a great paper on neural networks. If you're interested in neural networks, highly recommend. Okay, so you'll see a lot of math operations being done here. One note, and this was brought up last class, and I found out about this last class as well. Order of operations do matter within Python. If you have a chain of mathematical operations string together, like some multiplication, some parentheses, some additional addition, maybe you're even doing exponent, all of which will follow order of operations. And the specifics of order of operations, I cannot name exactly here, but you'll definitely be able to look that up online. Okay, real quick thing about our workshop. As most of you have probably experienced, typing in VR is not the easiest thing on earth, and it's a little painful. I'll completely be honest with you. I don't want anybody to try to code in VR. Not gonna stop you, but all I'm saying is there's a better experience out there. Um, for our 2 lectures throughout the week, it will be held in VR. However, uh, oh, I think I saw a comment back there about comments. I'll cover that in a sec. However, on Fridays, or usually near the end of the week, Lucia and I will host a workshop in Discord where people are able to either get on their phones or get on their computers and start typing out and writing out some code alongside of us. We'll provide you some worksheets and even some potential homework. Homework's not mandatory as a part of this class. I encourage you to do it, and we will provide you the resources. And if you do them, you're free to send them to us later, where we can provide some feedback for you within Discord. Not mandatory. And if you have any questions, always feel free to ask me them at any time, either here right now or in the Discord as well. And Lucia will be there to help address them. Okay. Yes, another question from Discord. I would say it depends on the person. Lucia, you can.
Sometimes learning how to do things like that is fun if you want to learn like how hardware works and how languages work at a low level. It's a great learning experience. Definitely not something I recommend doing first, but there are universities where that is covered within your first year. So mine, for example, was one of those. So it's not completely crazy.
Mine as well. Well, I would say it's generally not a good idea for most people if you have a keen interest in hardware. Like, for example, you're learning computer science so that you can work on hardware. I would personally say that might be okay for you. For most hardware, you'll be looking towards very lower level design and very lower level languages. Learning assembly will give you a really good idea on how each tiny component works, and you might even get into things like registers and program counters and things that make the computer tick in the background that most of us will probably never experience. Hope that answers the question. Do we have anything from the Twitch chat? Oh yes, second Discord. Ooh. Yes, good question and very keen eye. So, I go back. Which slide is this? Ah, yes. Okay, let's take a look at this. One very astute student noticed that we are using quotation marks on the left side and the right side of this block of text in order to denote the start and end of text. The question here is, how do we actually print one of these quotation marks if we want to? The simple answer is, within Python, you put a backslash in front of the quotation mark. That performs what we call a character escape. And essentially, that character escape makes the piece of character behind it seen as a text rather than as part of code. Within Python, there are a bunch of different ways to print it out. You can do multi-line strings that will respect quotation marks. You can also surround this text with single quotes and then print double quotes in the middle. it really depends on the language. But for Python, those are some of the examples, and I'll try to remember to share them during the workshop. Great question. Any questions from the audience? Yes, over here. Oh, sorry, could you speak a little bit louder? I'm having some trouble.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my microphone is behind me. Speaking of the workshop, on the slide mentioning the workshop, it said that the workshops were on Saturdays. Though in the Discord, it stated March 1st, which, if I recall, is a Friday.
Yes, yes. Good eye. These slides may be a little bit old. I would say go after the dates that's listed in Discord. Discord dates are the final dates. Please ignore the dates on the slides. Those may be outdated. Sorry, they are outdated.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. The question is on the workshop slide, it says every Saturday. Some of you will notice it's not on Saturday. The Discord says it's on Friday. The TLDR answer is these slides are a little bit outdated. Please ignore the dates on here, but we will have a workshop at the listed date and time zone inside of Discord. Keep an eye out on the announcements.
Yeah, for context, there was a back and forth communication on whether or not we wanted it to be on Saturday or Friday, and yeah, ultimately we ended up deciding on Friday. Yeah.
Friday won
The
out
slide's
at
just
the
not
end.
updated. Yep.
Yeah, hope that answers your question. Okay. That marks all of our slides. So, if you have any burning questions about the industry, some of the code that you have seen, or maybe just questions about, your future experiences or our experiences, anything, feel free to ask us. Yes, I see a question over here.
Yeah, you mentioned AI. I was curious what your thoughts were on like possibility of AI replacing like, a lot of software jobs out there and stuff.
Okay, question is thoughts on AI and the potential for AI to replace software jobs in the future. Quick context. You are the second person to ask this. Also, first week have asked about this as well. I think this is on everybody's minds. I took this last time. Do you want to grab this time, Lucia?
I was gonna say you did such a good job last time. Was gonna leave it to you.
All right, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So, I have thought about AI a lot. At the end of the day, oh, you cannot hear me. Okay, hold on. I'll turn my sound up a bit. Where is this thing? Okay, can you hear me better now? Hello, hello? Hope I'm coming through a little more clear. Alright, just to repeat the question, thoughts on AI and how AI will affect software jobs in the future. So, I'm someone who interacts quite often with AI, and AI is something that you will see integrate more and more into our future. I don't think it's anything that will go away. Some of the ways that you see AI that's already impacting computer science is you'll see, large GPT models like GPT and Gemini are already beginning to generate a lot of code. And to be completely honest with you, those code are not that bad. most of them, they're getting better and better, and they will be able to test themselves as well. I think for our purposes, right, at the end of the day, as long as there is another human being using programs and using software, you will see someone breaking something or wanting something to exist in the world. And most of that still starts from us, at least now. And at the end of the day, AI is just another tool, right? Just like how before we didn't have anything like cloud environments, and in order to get into coding, you needed to buy some tens of thousands of dollars of computers and being able to, run them and actually have a facility to program in. Now we have phones where we can perform all these tasks. I think AI is something that will change the way that we program in the future. As for how long, like 5 years or 10 years, I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, it's just another tool to add into a great programmer's arsenal. You will find that people who understand how to use their tools and understand the fundamentals of computer science will be able to make better programs for everyone. Hope that answers your question.
Mind if I add to that at all?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, it's the other thing to consider with AI. In the case of AI, we're typically referring to clarify, because there are AIs that are not an LLM, large language model, but in the case of AI, what people are referring to with ChatGPT as LLMs. LLMs work by just predicting the next sequence of characters. In order to predict the next sequence of characters, they have to base it off of what has been done before or similar. And that has some fairly decent shortcomings if you are trying to do something that is novel or new. Also, the code generated, while it is good, I will agree with you, it is oftentimes difficult to read, it is oftentimes buggy, in some cases it even has security vulnerabilities in it, which is fun to find. It's not, this may age poorly. In my opinion, it's not going to be replacing engineers anytime in the near future.
Miku Gumi says, please turn your mic off. I can't hear you. Can everyone else hear me okay throughout this lecture, and Lucia as well? Okay, most people are giving sound up. Maybe check your settings. Make sure that nothing is turned down too low in your settings. VR chat or your computer. Okay. Any questions from the Discord or Twitch? Yes, Discord question.
Sandy? What's Sandy?
Oh my god. Stay sane. That's a good one. Okay. So maybe not stay sane, but how do you go back the next day to do it again? I think the better question here is, how do you keep going back into the situation where you're performing? Okay, just a quick context for everyone. Debugging is the process of fixing a problem inside of your computer code. Not all problems are created equally. Some problems are notoriously harder than others. And when you run into these type of situations, in many cases, programmers will find that they will just bang themselves and their heads on their tables over and over and over and over again until you solve the problem. I will say I have definitely experienced that before. My best advice. My best advice for that situation is to know that there is usually always either a solution or workaround if you cannot fix it immediately. I don't know about staying sane, but I think there is a little bit of euphoria that comes from fixing a problem after a very, very long time. Lucia, maybe your personal
I am
experiences, yeah.
I am chuckling at this. How do you stay sane? Highly recommend asking for help. There's a decent chance the person you ask doesn't know either, but at least you know you're not going crazy. No, for me personally, one of the things typically do is I will look at the problem, time box it for how often I'm going to look at it, and then I will step away, get a cup of coffee, come back, and then take a look at it again. And usually that solves the issue. Sometimes you do get issues that are significantly more complex. Like I had one bug once that took myself and two staff/senior engineers over a month to fix. And we were actually digging into I'm going to be careful how much I say here because industry specific knowledge, but we were actually digging into the application code to the point that we were looking over individual like binary encodes and whatnot to verify that we were sending the correct information to this device. We were really in the weeds. Yeah, it was yeah. Usually you don't get terrible bugs like that, but when you do, it felt great to solve it. I will say that much.
Suffering feels better with other people. And that's true for non-computer science specific domains as well. Any other questions from the audience? Let me see. I hear you now. I fixed the problem. Yay. Nice. Yes, in the middle here.
I have tried coding before, and I always get really I guess it kind of leads into the last one. I get really frustrated, and I just don't want to go back to it. How do I like make myself bang my head against it?
Okay. Question is, tried programming before, but got frustrated, when, either problems occur or things don't work. How do you make yourself bang your head against it? Interesting question.
There's
Lucia,
several
you wanna
ways.
go first?
Yeah, there's several ways to look at this. So if it's something that is more often than not, especially when you are starting in computer science or programming, is you may not always understand the scope or the complexity of what you are going to be working on/solving. So the answer may very well be, like I'll take an example. Somebody, the response of, I would like to write a video game. Okay, I'd like to write a game engine. Okay, congratulations. You are now working on something that where people, that is their entire job and they have a decade of experience doing it and they still make mistakes. It is one of those, if you're looking at the problem and you genuinely are hitting roadblocks repeatedly, and it's something, there's a decent chance that it's something that you need more prerequisite knowledge in order to solve. There's no shame in that. We all start somewhere. I can speak from experience on, I thought it was a good idea to write. Well, actually, I thought it was a good idea to jump straight into kernel development when I was in high school. That was a horrible idea.
Yeah. From my personal experience, usually difficult problems can be broken down into smaller problems. I think this kind of covers like problem solving in general, not just, beginning to code, but problem solving in general usually stems down to how you approach the problem. I know there are a couple things that Lucia has mentioned before, but other than breaking down the problem, you can go and check with other people to see if they have similar problems, searching through Google, and basically finding different approaches towards your problem rather than attempting to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That is the definition of insanity.
Yep, exactly.
Hope that answers your question. Oh, I see a blur bubble here. I would have a take on the question. I'd happily share. Sure, go for it. Is it the same question as the problem solving?
Yeah, about the problem solving. Should I announce it up there? Or
Come up
can
on
I say it
stage.
here? Right.
Come up on stage. Feel free.
So on the question of how to like keep banging your head against something, even when it's really breaking you down. I mean, I've gone through many phases of programming. The way I've seen it most often stick with people, especially with when you're more fresh to it, and like like you mentioned, you have these big aspirations that you don't really know how to get into, and then you'll find these roadblocks that are just just really big mountains to climb. Um, the way I managed to get through one of those mountains was to find a project that I was really, really passionate about. And once you find that one magic project, you'll go to any extent. You'll find people you need to talk to. You will dig down the depths of of every forum, right? You'll learn new languages in like a weekend. And it hurts. Yeah, you won't sleep certain nights and things like that. But like, it's those like special moments that you can just climb any mountains. I felt like I'd share that because I've seen people succeed with that mindset. But yeah, I'll go back now.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your insight. I very much relate to that. Okay. Wow. We are almost going to wrap up. I think a couple more questions over here. Yes, go for it.
Hi. So I've seen a lot of talk today about like computer science as it pertains to the industry, and I'm personally much more excited about utilizing computer science to create custom tailored solutions to enhance my personal life, like stuff like helping with like personal file management and being able to automate certain things in my own life. And I'm wondering if there was any examples that you two might have had where you were able to utilize computer science for more personal means and not necessarily to like get a job or something like that. Something that just alleviates like very hard, like much more not hard, but repetitive, tedious tasks in your life that maybe you were able to automate.
Yeah, so the question was, we talked a lot about industry. What about personal life? Do we have any experiences of computer science helping us out on our personal lives? You are preaching to the choir here. I will let Lucia go.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so that's actually how I got into writing a lot of applications. Some of the programs that I have are from, I think the oldest program I have is from when I was 16. It was like a little automation for my cell phone when I would plug in the headphone jack. But it's a headphone jack now. Wow, I feel old. Okay, so in my case, what's one fun project I did? So I built my own home automation platform. I also have written a large amount of developer tools and custom programs for myself. I run Linux. I've made a lot of modifications to the ecosystem around me to do what I would like to for making file management easier and for making general workflows easier. I was just working on a project about 2 or 3 weeks ago integrating ChatGPT into it, so that was fun. I need to finish that up. But yeah, no, like there are a lot of ways to do it. My favorite one is still my home automation platform I wrote. So, for example, for me, I wake up, it turns on all the lights, it makes my coffee, and automates most of my morning routine, which is great because I'm not a morning person. I'm usually half asleep when it starts. So,
yeah. My best example is we wrote almost enterprise grade software so we can be number one in the world of a mobile game for half a year long running. That is a story for another time. But the TLDR is if you see something that you wish existed but doesn't exist and computer science can do it for you, that's all the power to you.
actually a great way to figure out what project you would like to tackle, or like if you like, what can I build? Like, and you don't know of anything to build. Looking for things that you personally would use is, in general, a great direction.
Yep, that's
Get
always
the
the great
question a
start.
lot of. Yep, get the question from people a lot. It's like, what should I build first? It's like, well, what do you want to build?
What do you wish existed? Just like this class. We wanted to see this. Yes, question over here, I think. Yes, go for it. Tiny one.
I was just interested, whenever you're building a project, how do you manage, personally, like, the balance between making it the best it can be and not trying to put in so many features that you just get bogged down doing things that don't really matter for the end product?
Feature creep. Alright, question was, when you work on a project, how do you balance between like accomplishing, I guess, the goal in mind versus potentially adding on so many more things that you want to pack in that it just becomes too overcomplicated. So, what you're describing there is what the industry calls feature creep, which is you want so many new features that nothing actually gets finished. And you'll start something and you'll never finish something. This is probably true not only in computer science, but also in other parts of life. For me, the way I approach it is I very much approach it from like a startup standpoint, since that's my experience. Everything comes from the bare minimum, right? If you have an idea inside your head and you want to know, hey, is this a good idea? Will this be good? You basically design it so that you can do the least amount of work for that thing to get going. And that is your MVP, your minimal viable product. And by starting from there, you can start using it and see which parts may be more useful, not only for potential companies, but also for yourself if you're building it for yourself. I would say the best advice that I have is start small. Start small, start focused. I know the question is, how do you not get focused? And my answer is just don't. But it really boils down to understanding what the core of the thing you want to build is. Hope that answers your question. Oh, Lucio, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, so I guess for context for me, for the last 3 years, what I've been doing primarily is building developer tooling and solutions to actually assist with enterprise development flows. So, and oftentimes that is something that we have the decision of what features do we want to provide to the engineers versus what do we feel is just not worth the time. And in general, it is like you said, same idea with the startup philosophy is you go through, see what the minimum amount of work you need is in order to implement the feature, and if it turns out, and you go through and you build it. That being said, there is also a point to know when you feel this is the max amount of time I am willing to spend on something, and then I need to cut it, regardless of where it is, whether it means cutting this feature out or whatever. It is so easy to build something and find out that you've spent 3 days on something that is never on one feature that two people are going to use that nobody really cares about. Not that I'm speaking from experience, but well, yeah, definitely speaking from experience on that. It's knowing when to time box yourself, knowing when to step away, and knowing when to call it quits at the end of the day. If this is an enterprise setup or a corporate setup, that decision will often be made for you if it takes too long. If it's your own personal, that can get a little bit trickier.
You gotta make it yourself. But yes,
Exactly.
time
Yep.
is a very good thing to limit yourself on as well. I think we're all at time, but we'll take one more question if anyone has anything burning. Anything from the Discord? I don't hear anything. Go for it. Wait, can you repeat the last part? Wait, what? Sorry, I'm not laughing. It's at your thing. It's just a very funny phrasing. Lucia,
There are,
why don't you take this one?
I'm gay, so I'm chuckling. But anyways, no, the but the I guess. Okay, so Python is a way you could do that. There are game libraries and the like that will allow you to render assets and whatnot, or an asset referring to an image or a piece of media, multimedia. That will allow you to render that onto the page and everything. Yep, Pygame is exactly what I was thinking. Yep. Pygame is something that you can implement pretty basic like games and applications in within easily 100, 200 lines of code. It's not exactly something you would immediately do right off the bat, but once you've done a few projects and whatnot, it's a fairly decent, actually a fairly decent intermediate level project, I would say. Don't you agree, Apple?
Actually, interestingly, I think depending on how you approach it, it can happen. So, I think as with any project, you can make it as simple or as complicated as you want to make it, right? So in the case of a game, instead of thinking your end goal as being this fully fleshed out game with all the mechanics and everything works just as intended, if you don't have any experience in programming, that's probably the start part that you want to focus on first, is just understanding what you're doing, how to work the engine. You can start by being, okay, I want to make a block in the middle of the screen and the block moves around with my WASD keys. That can be a project. And I think that's definitely a simple enough project for a beginner to tackle. And there are tons of like tutorials online that can teach you these type of things. And then once you reach a certain point where you feel like, okay, yeah, I think I'm ready, then you expand the project and then do more. So cut the project down to different bits. And yeah, I think almost any project can start as a beginner one, as long as you boil it down to be simple enough.
Yeah, like in the case of that project, like I would focus on, like in the case of that project specifically, I'm for intermediate for putting all the pieces together, right? But in the case of like individual pieces and everything, I would say managing to get the character to move on screen and move across the map, I would say that is probably a pretty good like starting point of a beginner project.
All right, hope that answers your question. We will have to wrap up here. We're about time. We're cutting into Moonlit Academy, actually. So thank you very much, everyone who's tuned in from the Discord, from the Twitch channel, or being here in VR chat. We will be back in about 2 days for the workshop. And next week, we are going to cover some simple variables in typing. So keep an eye out for that. We'll also be sending out more resources in the Discord very soon, TM. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have more additional questions, feel free to plop them in the Discord. The audience says, thank you for doing this. You're welcome. Hope you enjoy. Yeah, any closing remarks, Lucia?
No, I guess we'll see everyone on Friday. Have a good one.
See you on Friday. Have a good one. Bye.